So see, what had happened was I disappeared again. Hey, so it's me. Don't know if you remember. I was supposed to be back, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. But I keep having meltdowns, apparently. I hope you enjoyed my last episode, which was on the Battle of Los Angeles, that Sal was supposed to be on, and then then we just did it. I did it. I did the episode, but I did it by myself. It ended up not being about aliens, which, so it worked out. It was fine. But Sal's here now. Yay.
Hi, guys. Woo woo. I'm back.
Pull over, that ass too fat. We've also already had cocktails. I've had my first one for the day, which is rare because it's like 5:30. Usually I would have already been drinking, but such is life.
And I'm 3 deep, so.
He's already 3 deep. And we're having whiskey sours today. Some of you may already know what we're going to be talking about today. Today we're going to be talking about the Mueller report. And that's exciting. Is it? I don't know. Probably not.
To some, maybe.
I hope to never talk about anything political again. I said that after the Jack Smith report. I just do it kind of when I feel like it now. But I think what I'm just going to do is, like, right after this, I'm just going to go back to true crime because I'm tired. This took me so long because of everything that's going on. And yeah.
And everything that's going on.
Everything that's going on, and just like reading this fucking report and just being annoyed while reading the report. It just wasn't a pleasant read. Well, first of all, I read it already. Like, I read it before. I read it when it dropped.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I read it when it dropped. But then reading it again, and then, like, because I felt like it was important to read it again, and then kind of being where we are now, having read it again, I was just like, this is bullshit. You're already tired. So being tired and then being like, for real, it can't get any more criminal than this. Like, the report is almost laughable. It's hilarious. It's like it's funny, like the way Jack Smith was kind of funny, except Jack Smith was like more recent. This is very criminal. And so I'm hoping that there are people who voted for Trump actually listening to this time, and like not in a fucked up comedic way, but and not even like in a I told you so way, but in a way that I need people to understand that in 2016 and 2019, when 2016 when the election happened, but in 2019 when the actual report was dropped, there were already murmurings of this man being an absolute fucking criminal. And the report had already expressed, 40 years of him being a criminal. They just didn't do anything about it. So when you see so many people now who are Democrats, because Democrats are just poor at marketing how criminal he truly is to Republicans. They're great at marketing it to Democrats.
Right.
They're great at teaching it to people that already know that he's a criminal. But the people who are indoctrinated, they're already in it, they're very terrible at marketing it to them. And I think that sometimes, like, without any emotion, I just read it. And I think
just for the content.
That's it. And I think that is why I was so fucking tired, because instead of reading it as like the way I typically read the shit, I was just reading it like I didn't know shit.
Like a textbook.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay. And then I'm reading what's actually happening. And I'm also being reminded of characters that I forgot about, which some of them have been arrested. They have been pardoned already. They were pardoned in 2020. Some of them we have not thought about in years. So this is going to kind of be a refresher of those people. The volume 1 and 2 of the Mueller report was 448 pages long.
Combined?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's more than most novels.
Yeah. The Jack Smith report was 174 pages. It is heavily redacted. So as I was digging into it, the frustration was also because there is still a lot of harmful material that I do not know in this document. So when you're in the throes of information and all of a sudden there's like a big ass black bar and you're like, well, goddamn, I now
that's just lost information. You're never gonna know.
I'm never gonna know that side
Blacked
of the goddamn
out.
story.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Fan-fucking-tastic. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to get into it. And again, it does not read in the same way the Jack Smith report kind of read like a crime novel, but Mueller, who we are going to talk about who Mueller was the same way we talked about who Jack Smith was, but Mueller is a little bit different because Mueller he's been in the game for a long time. Like, he's been in the game for a very long time, and he is highly respected. He also was very thorough. 448 pages. He had a lot to work with. But there was also a lot to suss through that I feel like he knew that they were going to have to potentially deal with in other lawsuits. So that's why it's so redacted. Okay, this is going to be another case. That's going to be another case. This is going to still open. That part's still open. And I think they knew when they weren't going to proceed with Trump's indictment that there were some pieces that they just didn't want the public to know, which is infuriating. I posted a video this morning that another thing that frustrated me, because I did not grow up understanding liars. I don't respect liars.
Yeah, there's no reason for it.
And my mom, who taught me that children lie as a child, she taught me children lie, which I'm like, thanks.
So you're not allowed.
So I'm not allowed to lie even though I'm a child. I used to get in trouble for lying even as a child. I mean, there were some instances where she understood a lie, like the IRS and jail time, but, but the police, sure. But other than that, it was just like there were times where just lying just never really made sense. And also they grow. You have to continue to lie. Right? Like lies, they snowball. And in the video I posted this morning, I referenced, I don't know, have you ever seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross?
Very long time ago.
Great movie. Oh my God. I love Glengarry Glen Ross. I wish I could see the play. Like, I would love it if they would bring that back to the stage.
Amazing.
But there is a line in that film. I don't know how much you remember, but basically the plot of that movie is that they're real estate salesmen. And, excuse me, their office is robbed of the leads. There's like these premium leads where they get this, like they've been selling these shit leads for a while, right? And they've been making these calls, and they can't make these sales. They get all these psychos on the phone, and some of these people they talk to are people that they just want to talk to salesmen, right? Like old people and like crazy people and shit, but they got to make this quota. And they can't make this quota. And so finally they find out that there's this thing called the Glengarry leads. And the Glengarry leads are the premium leads, the ones that they know will sell. Well, somebody breaks into the office and steals the Glengarry leads. Eventually they have to investigate these leads being stolen. And so Alec Baldwin, who's like the top salesman, comes in. Kevin Spacey is, in it as well. He has to, it's like Jack Lemmon, Alec Baldwin. It's star-studded, right? Right. Ed Harris, all of these different casts, the beautiful cast, Al Pacino. And they get to investigating these leads. They're bringing them all in one at a time to talk about, and basically interview them. Where were you? Where were you when the leads were stolen type thing? But it's very character driven. And one of the things that Al Pacino is asked by, Alan Arkin, He says, I love Alan
Arkin.
He says to him, he's like, Alan Arkin is like really antsy because he's kind of like an anxiety character anyway. Like he's nervous because he's like intimidated by Alec Baldwin and Kevin Spacey. And he's like, well, what do I do when they ask me? And Al Pacino's like, I'm not fucking worried. Like, I'm not worried at all about them asking me about the leads. Because he's like, I didn't steal them. And he's like, what are you worried about? Did you steal the leads? He's like, no, I didn't steal the leads. And he was like, okay, well, if you didn't steal the leads, what is the problem? He was like, well, what do I tell him? He was like, you tell him the truth. He was like, well, he's kind of like, well, what is that? And he was like, it's the truth. It's the easy. He said, always tell the truth. It's the easiest thing to remember.
Yep.
And that line, I will never I got a shitty memory. So the idea of lying is useless to me because I cannot remember the fucking lie.
Trying to corroborate a lie, you'd be like, well, see what happened was, I mean,
and then you also have to remember who you told all the lies to. And I think that's the thing, too.
And then now they got to lie.
They got to lie, too.
Shoot.
They got to lie on your behalf.
That sucks.
And then then you have to think, who did I tell that lie to? And did I tell that lie to that person, too? Now you got to know whether or not those stories are in sync. And to me, now my integrity is in question. Am I trustworthy? That is the problem. And I feel like with a person like Trump, who is a salesman himself, he's a real estate guy, he has never really had a problem with being seedy, being untrustworthy. That has turned into his brand. He's kind of been okay with being a piece of shit. He's fallen into the character, right? Like he's completely found it. He's okay with the idea that people know that I am seedy as fuck. I'm gaudy, disgusting, just, you know what I mean? Like he's kind of repulsive.
He's living the brand.
Yeah, he's living the brand. I like my toilet gold. I like, foreign women. I go to Epstein Island. I engage with like criminals. I'm tacky. Like he's fallen into that shit. But reading the Mueller report and seeing the type of people that he engaged with and all the lies that they tell too. But then I think my frustration with it was like, it's one thing having this grand criminal enterprise. It's another thing knowing that the government knows that there's a great criminal enterprise and they're all like, eh.
Oh, well, that's him.
Okay.
That's him.
I mean, if the shoe fits, it's like, no, but technically though, if this is like supposed to be all about law and order, if I can't do it, why can he do it? So I think that is another component of like, that's another reason why I was so frustrated with reading this, where I'm like, how does this man get away with everything? And I think it's just like when people have low expectations of you, they don't expect shit. They're not really.
Yeah, if you operate at such a low like standard,
yeah,
nobody really cares
what you do.
Nope.
It's kind of like, well, it's
scum
him.
Is scum.
It's him. It's like if you pulled out a phone that was dead. It was like, well, the phone's dead. Shit, it don't work. The expectation is for the phone not to turn on. Mm-hmm. The phone is useless. It doesn't work. You're not going to expect the phone to charge. I can't make a call on the phone. Phone doesn't work. You don't have high expectation of the phone. And I think that is what, people have just accepted about him. I think what has frustrated me is that is not what we've expected of a president. This entire time, we have set the bar so fucking low with him that we've created the precedent that a president can be a criminal.
Right.
Obama couldn't. Kamala definitely fucking couldn't. No. So why can he? And he's definitely a fucking criminal. So we're going to get into that. Sorry for the crazy fucking long intro. All right. The poison, whiskey sour. We're keeping it very, very simple.
And it's delicious.
Delish. It's me and Sal's first go round with bourbon in a minute, so we are fucking heated.
I haven't had whiskey, bourbon.
I gotta cool it down. Heated.
Like brown liquor in
you and me.
months.
Heated. You know, I was listening to Beyonce today, and Drake wrote that song.
Don't mention this.
Okay, I'm sorry. You like, don't listen to that piece.
He's so stupid.
Okay. But when you listen to Heated, you're like, yeah, that sounds like a song Drake will write. Got it.
Is it about a bitch?
Ooh, technically.
Not about a woman bitch, just being a bitch.
It sounds like a Drake song.
Oh. Okay.
Anyway.
All right.
Sip. We did several times. All right, let's do it. Let's get to know Robert. Bobby, if you will.
Barbarino.
Okay, so Bobby. So Robert S. Mueller III. He was born August 7th. He's a Leo. I like Leos. My granny was a Leo. He was born August 7th, 1944 in New York City, New York, to Alice C. Truesdale and Robert Swan. I know, the fuck. Mueller Jr. Now, he has 4 sisters. His father served in the Navy during World War II. Mueller grew up in Princeton, New Jersey. He attended Princeton Country Day School, and then they moved to Philly, where he attended St. Paul's School in Concord, New Hampshire for high school, which is kind of weird. It's like, is New Hampshire that close to Philly? Confusing. Whatever.
They're all very close.
Okay, cool. Never been there. He attended Princeton, where he received his BA in politics in 1966, and then he earned his master's in international relations from NYU in 1967. In 1968, he joined the Marines, and then he enrolled in the University of Virginia, where he graduated in 1973. And after serving, he actually was a part of the Virginia Law Review at the University of Virginia. So he is a fucking smart ass dude. Now, Mueller became a litigator in San Francisco. He was there until 1976. And then he went to the U.S. Attorney's Office, where he served for 12 years. He handled cases involving corruption, narcotics, and money laundering. So I would say he is qualified.
Very qualified in all those aspects.
Now, he did become a partner at a law firm in Boston. And then in 1989, he moved on to the DOJ, where he acted as assistant AG to Dick Thornburg. He was acting as a deputy AG. Now, by the 90s, he was attorney general in charge of the criminal division, where he handled cases like Noriega and John fucking Gotti.
Jeez.
Yeah. By the 2000s, Mueller was nominated by George W. Bush to be FBI director, and he was confirmed 1 week before 9/11 on 9/4/2001. Literally 7 days before. Now, an interesting moment that happened with Mueller and James Comey, who came up in the Trump fiasco, and I'm going to talk about James Comey later. But on March 10th, which is funny because I started writing this on March 10th. I just can't stop fucking
coinciding with all the dates.
I just can't.
Yeah.
But AG John Ashcroft was having gallbladder surgery, and the White House at the time was trying to get him to authorize a warrantless wiretap, which is completely fucking illegal.
Yeah.
This was a program that was implemented as part of the war on terrorism, right? Which, you know, of course, super obsessed with that after 9/11. Now, James Comey and Mueller found out, and they rushed to the fucking hospital, and they tried to stop the White House officials from getting that man to sign any fucking paperwork. They ran to the hospital to get him to stop signing the paperwork.
Wow.
So Mueller completely backed Comey. He told them that the FBI was not to cooperate if the White House pushed forward with that illegal wiretapping. Ashcroft refused to sign, and Comey threatened to resign if he did, and if they proceeded with it. Now, fast forward 7 years, in May 2011, Barack Obama asked Mueller if he would stay as FBI director for another 2 years beyond his 10-year term, and the Senate approved. And in 2013, Mueller was replaced with James Comey. But Mueller is technically the longest serving FBI director since J. Edgar Hoover.
Wow.
Yes. And J. Edgar Hoover created the FBI.
Wow. Yeah.
So after leaving the FBI in 2013, he went over to the private sector for 4 years, and then in May 2017, Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller as a special counsel for the investigation into the Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, which is where we are now. Now, this is Volume 1 and 2. Volume 1 breaks down the results of the special investigation of Russian interference into the 2016 election of the Trump campaign, which is the investigation, the ways the Russians interfered, and the links between the Russians and the Trump campaign. The special counsel's charges. Volume 2 addresses Trump's actions towards the FBI investigation and the special counsel, because of course Trump tried very hard to get them to stop investigating because he's a bitch. Now that will be discussed at the end. I'd also like to add, like I said before, this report was very redacted, so this episode is not going to be incredibly long. So we're going to start from the beginning now. Now, after the 2016 election, the U.S. government imposed sanctions on Russia for interfering with the election. To, quote, to carry out the investigation and the prosecution of matters assigned to him, the special counsel assembled a team that at its high point included 19 attorneys,
That's
5 of whom joined the office from private practice and 14 on detail or assigned from other Department of Justice components. So they were good to go. Wow. There were also Department of Justice lawyers and FBI personnel to screen material. Quote, during its investigation, the office issued more than 2,800 subpoenas under the auspices of a grand jury sitting in the District of Columbia, executed nearly 500 search and seizure warrants, obtained more than 230 orders for communications records, obtained almost 50 orders authorizing use of pen registers, made 13 requests to foreign governments pursuant to mutual legal assistance treaties, and interviewed approximately 500 witnesses, including almost 80 before a grand jury. Now, let's be clear. A statement that the investigation did not establish particular facts does not mean that there was no evidence of those facts. In evaluating whether evidence about collective action of multiple individuals constituted a crime, we applied the framework of conspiracy law, not the concept of collusion. In so doing, the office recognized that the word collude was used in communications with the acting attorney general, confirming certain aspects of the investigation scope, and that the term had frequently been invoked in public reporting about the investigation. But collusion is not a specific offense or theory of liability found in the United States Code, nor is it a term of art in a federal criminal law. For those reasons, the office's focus in analyzing questions of joint criminal liability was on conspiracy as defined in federal law. In connection with that analysis, we addressed the factual question of whether members of the Trump campaign coordinated, a term that appears in the appointment order, with Russian election interference activities. Like collusion, coordination does not have a settled definition in federal criminal law. We understood coordination to require an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. That requires more than the two parties taking action that were informed by or responsive to the other's actions or interests. We applied the term coordination in that sense when stating in the report that the investigation did not establish that the Trump campaign coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. Now, I felt that was important to say because even in the media, and I remember this, they use colluded a lot. They used colluded a lot. And him saying basically that we don't really want to use that here. That's not technically a term that is used in federal law. We would rather use coordinated. But even then, it's not coordination is not even a settled definition. But even still trying to identify a definition within federal law of like, what does coordination really mean? You know, is it tacit or express? Does the Trump campaign and the Russian government, are they actually working together? Did the Trump campaign actually ask for help from the Russian government? Or did the Trump campaign just simply accept help from the Russian government? It was
volunteered to them.
Exactly. So first things first, the earliest signs of the Russian interference identified by the investigation was a social media campaign. Now, this part is incredibly important, and I want people to really listen to this because we're still dealing with this shit today. Social media is a huge fucking problem. While I love social media to death, everybody needs to understand that what you read on social media is not to be completely fucking trusted. Do your due diligence. You have to look at it and then double check a valuable source. The way Trump has gotten away with a lot of shit is by manipulating the truth, by basically saying that trusted sources are liars, fake news, alternative facts, right? And he's getting this from Russians. I mean, they've done this. So social media campaigns used by the Russians were to provoke political discourse that favored Donald Trump and opposed Hillary Clinton at the time. The organization behind this was at the time called the IRA, which was the Internet Research Agency. It was a troll farm. They were controlled by this Russian oligarch by the name of Yevgeny Prigozhin. He was tied to Putin and his companies that he managed. Now, the funding is hidden, and it's a part of a much bigger operation called the Project Lakta. Now, this was called information warfare. Okay, now for the Russians, this is nothing new. Active Measures is a Soviet and Russian intelligence strategy involving political warfare, misinformation or disinformation, and covert influence operations to manipulate public opinion, destabilize governments, and basically to advance Russians' global interests. They don't have no fucking money. So what they do is they create disinformation campaigns, propaganda, election interference, forgeries, fake documents, funding extremist groups, and they use covert influence on media and public political organizations. Active Measures was developed by the KGB. Which the KGB is a Soviet secret police and intelligence agency. And this was created during the Cold War. This was used to influence and destabilize foreign democracies, period. That is what it's used for. They did this in the 1980s with AIDS. The disinformation of the AIDS campaigns that they use in the United States they created it to basically say that AIDS was a bioweapon created in the United States. And they even made forged documents and made it look like the CIA made these documents. Now, this form of warfare is not only effective, but it is incredibly cheap. Russia, when dealing with the greatest economic power in the world, us, you can't fight with the military. You can't, because the only other military that's as powerful as ours is China. The social media is the greatest place to sow seeds of doubt. And honestly, all you need is a little bit of money. Travel, bots, cyber. The IRA purchased political advertisements They were on social media. They were acting like U.S. citizens. They were acting like U.S. entities. They would even go as far as to stage political rallies. They would do this by setting up grassroots organizations. They would make contact with Trump supporters and campaign officials. Some grassroots organizations included anti-immigration, BLM, and Tea Party activists. So, Putin and Russia, their long-term goal is to weaken Western democracies by sowing chaos, division, and mistrust. The truth of it is, it's very easy to do in a place that's already divided.
Right.
The United States already got issues.
It's already broken.
Yeah. When you got racism, you got classism, you already had a lot of issues. It's very easy to do. Putin wanted to show that the U.S. is no better than Russia, just as vulnerable to corruption. We already had rigged systems. We already had political instability. By amplifying conspiracy theories, race tensions, and partisan divides, Russia aimed to destabilize American society, and he's still doing it. Now, Putin personally disliked Hillary Clinton, too. He blamed her for encouraging anti-Putin protests in Russia between 2011 and 2012 when she was Secretary of State. He saw Clinton as a threat to his authoritarian model, which she was. She pushed back hella hard on him. And so he promoted Trump because he knew Trump could fracture NATO and the EU partnerships that we had and the global alliances that we had and isolate us, which is exactly what the fuck is happening right now.
Right.
So it's
he became his puppet.
Yep. 100%. Mm-hmm. I mean, you gotta give Putin some credit. He picked the right one. He picked the perfect one. Now, and we will get to how he picked him because it's brilliant. Now, the IRA began its operations in the U.S. as early as 2015. The IRA reached millions of Americans via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and hundreds of thousands of U.S. participants and followers, including politicians. I mean, there were 470 IRA Facebook accounts that made 80,000 posts between January 2015 and August 2017 alone.
Jeez.
Reaching 126 million people. Twitter had 3,814 IRA accounts, reaching 1.4 million people using bot accounts to amplify existing content. They posted constantly on Twitter, and they even sent over DMs. The bots were not fucking done. They were even some news outlets that were retweeting them because they thought they were real. So, for example, one IRA account tweeted, "To those people who hate the Confederate flag, did you know that the flag and the war wasn't about slavery? It was all about money." That tweet received over 40,000 responses. God. The IRA recruited U.S. activists and administrators of Facebook groups, and specialists would fly to America under normal U.S. visas and itineraries and instructions for the trip. Groups like, here are the groups. And I don't remember the names of all the groups, but because I was on Facebook at that time, part of me is like, I vaguely remember some of these groups. Being Patriotic, Stop All Immigrants, Secured Borders, Tea Party News, Black Matters, Blacktivists, Don't Shoot Us, LGBT, United Muslims of America, Being Patriotic, Stop All Invaders, and Secured Borders. These groups had hundreds of thousands of followers. According to Facebook, in total, the IRA-controlled accounts made over 80,000 posts before their deactivation in August of 2017, and these posts reached at least 29 million U.S. persons and may have reached 126 million people. To organize rallies, the IRA would use Facebook and Twitter to announce and promote events. They received a shit ton of DMs from the followers asking to attend. Then there were dozens of rallies organized by the IRA, and the earliest was the Confederate rally in 2015. The IRA was engaged in recruiting, which included amplifying posts by the IRA. Now, the IRA would post anti-Clinton content. The IRA controls social media accounts criticizing Clinton's records as Secretary of State, which, of course, we know Putin hated Clinton and hated her when she was Secretary of State. They promoted various critiques of her candidacy. Quote, "It is imperative to intensify criticizing Hillary Clinton." This is the motive. The IRA employees were aware that the goal was to influence the U.S. election. Throughout 2016, an account was in it. The name of the account was Matt Skyber, started privately messaging Trump Facebook groups to plan rallies near Trump Tower.
So that's when it started.
Now, the IRA also purchased ads to oppose the Clinton campaign. One read, quote, "If one day God lets this liar enter the White House as president, that day would be a real national tragedy." The first campaign to explicitly endorse Trump was on April of 2016. And on Instagram, the IRA bought an ad asking Trump supporters to upload photos with the hashtag Kids for Trump. Kids for Trump.
Kids for Trump.
1-800-7 kids for kids for Trump.
KIRS. Oh my God! Don't even do that. You'll never get that out of your head.
Seriously. Okay. So then in March of 2016, the GRU, which is the main intelligence directorate of the general staff of the Russian army, they carried out the second interference, which was the hacking of the Clinton campaign. Now, this went on for way fucking long and ended up being an absolute nothing fucking burger. There were 2 cyber units involved in targeting Clinton's campaign. Quote, one department, for example, developed specialized malicious software, which is called malware, while another department conducted large-scale spear phishing, which we deal with at work, campaigns. Now, spear phishing is basically a targeted form of phishing, where attackers send personalized emails to specific individuals or organizations to trick them into revealing sensitive information like passwords and financial details. Or they send you links so you can install shit, whatever. Now, the GRU hacked the networks of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, which is the DCCC, and Hillary Clinton's campaign staff. Now, it was the John Podesta emails. They phished his emails and they implanted malware. They stole thousands of emails and documents. The GRU then went on to create all these fake online personas to release these fucking stolen materials. I will never forget this shit on Rachel Maddow, ever. There were 2. One was called DC Leaks. It was a website posing as a whistleblower group. DC Leaks, they released these like well-known Democratic like documents. And then there was Goosifer 2.0. They were supposed to be...
That's a funny name.
It's fucking stupid. It was supposed to be a lone hacker persona, and they were leaking these documents, and they were supposed to be sending them directly to journalists and like political operatives. Now, the GRU also secretly transferred like large caches of like stolen emails to all sorts of people, including fucking WikiLeaks. Do you remember WikiLeaks?
Yeah, I remember that.
And of course, WikiLeaks published them because Julian Assange is a fucking bitch. Now, the WikiLeaks releases were interesting because WikiLeaks released over 20,000 DNC emails just before the Democratic National Convention and published the John Podesta emails. That happened within an hour of the infamous fucking Access Hollywood tape, the grab 'em by the pussy tape.
Oh my God.
The timing led people to believe that WikiLeaks was coordinating with the Trump campaign. That's how people, or they had Russian intelligence. So people were kind of like connecting the two. They're like, something's up here. Now, the documents included strategy documents, fundraising documents, and emails from the work inboxes, but it also included opposition research of Trump. Opposition research is normal. Campaigns always do opposition research. The whole point is to find research on your opposition. That's the fucking point. Now, the GRU hacked into 29 different computers on the DCC network and over 30 computers on the DNC network. This part of the report is redacted to shit, okay? But it weighs heavily on the methods of the hacking, which I won't even pretend to fucking understand, because this part was technical as shit. I'm like, I'm not. Mueller was thorough, okay? Now, the GRU had been leaking this information to DC Leaks, but Guccifer 2.0 published a post using WordPress blog and basically blamed the DNC hack on a Romanian hacker using a Moscow-based server.
Moscow?
Yeah, but there were a lot of fucking English words, okay? Words like phrases like some hundred sheets. Like if you were to say like, oh no, there's like some hundred sheets. Like if you were to say like, how many sheets? Some hundred sheets. Is that a Russian turn of phrase?
Right. Is that something?
Or Illuminati and like worldwide known, like things like that kind of made them feel like, okay, it's a Moscow server, but the language is giving not. So it could be. But is there a VPN involved? You know?
Right.
So the GRU also released these documents on analyzing like potential criticisms of Trump, analyzing like specific like congressional races. But the smoking gun was the releasing of Hillary's emails. I had PTSD of that shit. That went on forever. Quote, before sending the reporter the link and the password to the closed DC Leaks website in an apparent effort to deflect attention from the fact that DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0 were operated by the same organization, the Guccifer 2.0 persona sent the reporter an email stating that DC Leaks was a WikiLeaks sub-project and that Guccifer 2.0 had asked DC Leaks to release the leaked emails with closed access to give reporters a preview of them. Guccifer 2.0 released documents to reporters and other interested individuals, but this continued from June to August 2016. Twitter eventually suspended the account, but once the account was reinstated, Guccifer proceeded to send the messages to redacted parties, of course, asking if they were interested in these docs. They were just like, asking people like, do you want these emails? Like, we got all these emails. Are you interested in Hillary's emails? Basically trying
to sell them out.
How interested are you? This was some juicy shit in these. First, because it's useful. This will annoy Hillary. But secondly, because we want to be seen as the resource player during their election. Like, shut the fuck. DC Leaks contacted WikiLeaks because releasing the stolen emails through DM on Twitter is fucking weird, but whatever. Quote, you announced your organization was preparing to publish more Hillary's emails. We are ready to support you. We have some sensitive information too, in particular, her financial documents. Let's do it together. What do you think about publishing our info at the same moment? Thank you. WikiLeaks reached out to Guccifer 2.0. Send any new material stolen from the DNC here for us to review, and it will have much higher impact than what you're doing. So WikiLeaks is kind of coordinating with this Guccifer 2.0 character on how to effectively make the biggest impact on releasing these Hillary emails. This is in June. And in July, WikiLeaks reached out to Guccifer. If you have anything on Hillary related, we want it in the next week or two. There's so many fucking typos. I just can't even. But then Guccifer said, Guccifer 2.0 responded, okay, I see. WikiLeaks also explained, we think Trump has only a 25% chance of winning against Hillary. So conflict between Bernie and Hillary is interesting. Now, at the time, I don't know if you remember this, there was some interesting shit going on in the Democratic Party between Hillary and Bernie. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, because Bernie was my boy, but he was radical in their eyes. They were trying to maintain the status quo. They were sure that Hillary was going to win. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was the head of the Democratic Party at the time, she was the one that was kind of like, we'll push Hillary Clinton, not Bernie. He well, first of all, he's Jewish. And two, Hillary is normal. She's already known. She's a woman.
Popular.
You know, why not? She was Secretary of State. Bernie is kind of like hunched over, old, angry. You know, they kind of felt like he was just a little too radical for the moment. To this day, I do believe that Bernie Sanders would have won against Trump because Bernie Sanders, at the end of the fucking day, speaks to poor people. He speaks to poor people. Hillary does not. Hillary don't. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Hillary's a fucking elitist. No matter how you spin it, she's an elitist. And poor white people don't like elitists. Who poor white people like is angry people, and Bernie's angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to commiserate.
They want somebody who's willing to speak on their behalf, who's willing to speak up, and who is as riled up as they are. Hillary is not. Hillary just giggles when they complain. That's not what they like. So Mueller could not confirm whether or not anyone from the Trump administration was working to orchestrate the IRA or the GRU hacks. He was also unable to identify when the GRU transferred the documents to WikiLeaks. But Julian Assange had access to the internet via the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he sought asylum to avoid extradition to Sweden for a sexual assault investigation in 2012. Now, Ecuador revoked his asylum in 2019, and Assange was arrested in London by British authorities. Now, if you don't know who Julian Assange is, Julian Assange founded WikiLeaks in 2006. WikiLeaks is a platform for whistleblowers. That is where you would anonymously publish government and corporate secrets. And he had his own personal issues with Clinton, though. Assange believed that Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State between 2009 and 2013, played a role in efforts to prosecute him after WikiLeaks published the U.S. diplomatic cables in 2010. And he worried that if Clinton became president, she would pressure the UK to extradite him. And so basically, Clinton was beefing with everybody.
Damn, she was on everybody's list.
Now, he's currently facing U.S. extradition charges under the Espionage Act for publishing military documents. He's still fighting extradition in the UK, but he does deny working with Russia. He denies that. I don't believe him. But in the summer of 2016, Julian Assange and WikiLeaks made statements about this guy named Seth Rich, who was a former DNC staff person who was killed in July of 2016. He was murdered. He said that he was the source of the stolen emails. They had even posted on their Twitter account that they were willing to issue a $20,000 reward for the information on the murder. Now, quote, Assange was asked in an interview, "Why are you so interested in Seth Rich's killer?" He responded, "We're very interested in anything that might be a threat to alleged WikiLeaks sources." The interviewer responded to Assange's statement by commented, "I know you don't want to reveal your source, but it certainly sounds like you're suggesting a man who leaked information to WikiLeaks was then murdered." Assange replied, "If there's someone who potentially connected to our publication and that person has been murdered in suspicious circumstances, it doesn't necessarily mean that the two are connected, but it is a very serious matter. That type of allegation is very serious and it's taken very seriously by us," end quote. So that was July 2016, but Trump made the public statement. Russia, if you're listening,
oh God,
I hope you're able to find the 30 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press, bitch. Now, same day, July 27, 2016, the GRU specifically attempted to access Clinton's private email server. Clinton's team deleted 30,000 emails, which I'm like, oh fucking K. I just deleted 30,000 emails. They were all from Bloomingdale's. They were all from fucking Bloomingdale's. Like, what do you want? They were claiming they were personal and unrelated to government business. Like, the bitch could have had 30,000 personal ass emails. That's not unusual.
No.
Like, I got 85,000 emails right now. Like, she's a woman. She could have probably had some fucking shit in there for Pottery Barn.
Like, there are receipts, the actual receipts.
Some Amazon shit in there.
Order confirmations.
So the FBI investigated, but
promo.
Thank you. The FBI investigated, but they didn't recover him. These were the emails that Trump was referring to, like in the "if you're listening" remark. And then Roger Stone, his bitch ass, he's a longtime Trump associate. He communicated with WikiLeaks, about the document dumps, the email dumps. Now, Roger Stone, he's a Republican. He's a swinger. He's fucking quirky as fuck. He's a weirdo. Like if he wasn't
swinger, as in
like a swinger,
normal
like
swingers, like just
like if he wasn't so fucking seedy, we'd probably kick him with him. We'd probably
kick it with him. Shoot.
But he's a political
listeners.
Operative.
That's not.
Yeah, that's not a. Yeah, shut up. Don't judge us. He's a political operative. He's a strategist. He's a lobbyist. He's known for like dirty ass tricks. He's controversial as fuck. But he is close to Donald Trump, and he has been involved in U.S. politics since the fucking 70s. I mean, he was in campaigns with Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan. He met Trump in the 80s. He encouraged him to run for president. Roger Stone learned politics from Roy Cohn, who was gay, by the way. Roy Cohn, that new movie that's about Trump, The Apprentice, that I really want to watch.
Oh, yeah. It was up for an Oscar.
Yeah. Jeremy, what's his name? Oh God, I can't, that guy from, what's that show? Succession? Is it called Succession? Is that the show? Succession?
Yeah, about
he's
the
playing
billionaires?
Roy Cohn. Yeah.
About the billionaires?
Yeah. So he played in Succession, and he is like playing Roy Cohn, and I'm super excited about watching that movie because he looks so anyway, Roy Cohn had died of AIDS, and there's this really fucked up scene where like Trump buys him like this beautiful cake, and it's like an American flag cake, and Trump put sparklers in it. I think it's right before he dies because he doesn't want him to blow out the candles, and it's like a dark, very moody scene. I think I saw a clip on TikTok, but it's really hard to watch. And the guy that plays Trump is just he was
the one that was up for an Oscar.
Yeah. Was Jeremy Strong not for one? No. He anyway, I mean, and I'm very interested. I was actually going to do an episode on Roy Cohn, but I had to buy the book. I was like, fuck. I wanted an audio book.
Right.
But I'll probably just read the book anyway because I'm kind of fascinated by him. But Roy Cohn taught Roger Stone politics. He was his mentor. Roy Cohn was a fixer for Trump in the 70s and 80s, and he's the one that taught Trump to never admit you're wrong, always hit back harder, and use the court as a weapon, not for justice. That is what Roy Cohn taught Trump.
Jeez.
Yeah. So now, back to the emails. No evidence shows, and the whole point of mentioning Roger Stone too was simply because Roger Stone was implicated in the email dump. That was his job. His job was supposed to be to help get these emails and to amplify the Hillary emails and to kind of like market how nefarious these emails were supposed to be. It was just like bullshit. But no evidence shows that these emails were hacked, obtained, or released by Russia, or WikiLeaks for that matter. But Russia did respond to Trump's statement attempting to hack Clinton's personal email server that same day. The released emails, while politically damaging, did not contain direct evidence of criminal activity. It was all a waste of fucking time. But what we do know is that the Trump administration was very interested in what they had. Assange would claim to have stuff all summer, and he even communicated with Donald Trump Jr., but it was nothing. I mean, it was just nothing. It's like you don't have anything. What they were just trying to do was just trying to create this grand publicity stunt of these emails to kind of like create this... She's got all, like they hacked the DNC. They hacked her professional emails. But this idea of these like 30,000 personal emails that they didn't have those emails. Those emails have been deleted. And that was the thing, like for you to be sitting up here and marketing that that we got all of these emails. You can't wait for you to see these emails. You will never believe what's in these emails. There's nothing in the fucking emails. There was no emails. What's in the emails? And the emails that they did have, everybody that saw the emails kept saying like, these are just regular old campaign emails. Mm-hmm. Opposition research, financial data for campaigns, government shit. You just hacked a campaign. Great. Congratulations.
Right. Nothing new.
Fantastic.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Now, even Rick Gates, who was the deputy campaign chair, he was very aware that Donald Trump was incredibly upset that they did not find anything in those emails. Which is another one of those moments, kind of like in the Jack Smith report, when they couldn't find the votes. Another person expressing Donald Trump's disappointment when they can't give him what they want. Somebody on the inside who is saying, yeah, Donald Trump was pretty pissed that we couldn't give him what he wanted, which only goes to show that it wasn't working. That's what I'm trying to get his followers to understand. Right. So while you're still reeling about Hillary's fucking emails, even Donald Trump is saying, ain't shit in these emails. I'm pissed. While you're still reeling about whether or not Donald Trump won the 2020 election, Donald Trump's people is in the back and being like, yeah, Donald Trump's pretty pissed because he lost the 2020 election.
Dude.
Meanwhile, you're on the opposite side looking at his tweets or what the fuck he's saying on Truth Social, which is Russian backed, by the way.
No, I mean, no surprise.
I looked that up. There's a fucking Russian in Miami that financed it. Yeah. It's Russian backed. Anyway, now moving on to the GRU. Now they targeted the election administration as well, state and local. They targeted private tech firms. They hacked voter registration software. They hacked polling stations, and they continue to do so all the way up to November 2016. Quote, in one instance, in approximately June 2016, the GRU compromised the computer network of what? The Illinois State Board of Elections by exploiting a vulnerability in the State Board of Elections website. They had data on millions of Illinois voters. Us. They continued to spearfish by sending emails to public officials in election administration. In Florida alone, they sent over 120 emails to county election officials. The FBI handled that investigation and believed that the GRU gained access to network of county government. But the Mueller report did not verify that. They left that up to the FBI because that was a part of the FBI investigation. So they didn't even get into that. But they were like, just so we do want to put that in a report that the FBI did investigate that. And it is been proven by them that the GRU definitely hacked multiple state board elections. Okay. Now, here is the stupid one. There's going to be a lot of characters here. So, the Trump Moscow project. This is dumb. You probably heard this before. Well, this is when a lot of motherfuckers start going to jail.
Damn.
This is when
Shoot.
This is when a lot of motherfuckers start getting indicted. Now, before the election, there was a lot of interactions between the Trump campaign and Russia. But one of the most significant ones was the Trump Tower Moscow project. Michael Cohen, who I follow on TikTok. I sometimes join his lives. He's a very interesting character. He was Trump's personal lawyer. He's burned now. Trump called him a rat. They ain't friends no more. But he used to work. Yeah.
Shoot.
But I do follow him. I think he's adorable. I think he's adorable. But he worked on real estate deals in Russia while Trump was running for president. Now, Michael Cohen was Trump's fixer. Michael Cohen had a bunch of shit going on. He used to fuck with like taxi medallions and all types of shit back in New York. You know, taxi medallion business is corrupt as shit. So there was a lot of that shit going on. Now, Michael Cohen, who was Trump's fixer, he worked with the Trump organization between 2006 and 2018. He handled all of Trump's legal matters and his personal issues, including the Stormy Daniels situation. He fixed that situation. Now, Cohen reached out to Dmitry Peskov, who was Putin's press secretary in early 2016, and Trump signed a letter of intent for the Moscow Project, the Trump Moscow Project. Negotiations continued until June 2016, which totally contradicts Trump's statement, which he said that he had no dealings with Russia. Because he's a fucking liar. Mm-hmm. Now, pause. Here's an even bigger reason why this is bullshit. Trump had been a Russian asset since the 1980s. In 1987, he visited St. Petersburg to explore potential real estate projects. And despite his unsuccessful projects in Russia before, Russian individuals invested heavily in Trump branded properties. Mm-hmm. The relationship would really start with the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, which we talked about in the office before. Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah. Now, this is when he hit the Russian criminal fucking radar. Trump could not get an American bank loan to save his fucking life after this shit. In 1998, $477,000 fine for money laundering violations. Okay. Now, the Taj Mahal was found guilty of violating the Bank Secrecy Act, because they didn't report over $10 million in suspicious cash transactions in 1990 and 1991. Those transactions involved high rollers and organized crime figures that were Russian and Eastern European. That's number one. Then in 2015, he had $10 million fine for money laundering. That was a financial crime enforcement network. That was a $10 million penalty for the Taj Mahal because of suspicious activity reports. Between 2003 and 2010, the casino allowed millions of illicit cash transactions without properly monitoring or reporting them. And that remains one of the largest fines ever imposed on a casino for money laundering.
Jesus.
The FBI and the federal prosecutors identified the Taj Mahal as a hotspot for money laundering for Russian mobsters. Felix Sater, who is a convicted felon with ties to Russia and organized crime, worked on Trump-related real estate deals and had past links to the Taj Mahal. Duh. Trump would later deny even fucking knowing him after the whole president shit. Now, Felix Sater comes up. He is a Russian-American businessman. He's mob-linked. He's a felon. He's a longtime associate of Donald Trump. He even had a business card that said he was associated with Donald Trump.
Oh, my gosh.
Sater worked with Bayrock, which is a real estate group that is connected to Russia, but it's a firm that partnered with Trump. And this was in the 2000s. And he helped develop all of these Trump properties, like Trump Soho in New York. And Sater also, he was a covert asset for the FBI and the CIA.
No. Dude.
And he helped track down Russian organized crime for not only for Russia, but also for Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda? Oh my gosh.
You cannot make this shit up. This motherfucker got a wild ass resume.
Fucking homie gets around.
He is not only a Wall Street fraudster, he is fucking FBI informant. Motherfucker. Now, mind you, Sater He worked closely with Michael Cohen. He worked very closely with Michael Cohen on the Trump-Moscow deal. Sater claimed that he could get Putin on board and that the building the tower, would help Trump win the presidency. And so he emailed Cohen in 2015 and he said, our boy can become president of the USA and we could engineer it. I will get Putin on this program and we will get Donald elected.
Dude. You just say the word and we'll do it. Damn, son.
I can't even say this motherfucker's name, but his name is Lashlavkalav Igevikanov. Whatever.
Consonant.
But he's a
consonant fucking soup.
It's got 2 vowels in it, but he's a top Russian mob boss. He laundered money also through the Taj Mahal. He was a huge Russian mob boss. So there's a lot of Russian shit going on through the Taj Mahal. And so there were 63 individuals with Russian passports, Russian addresses that invested $100 million in 7 Trump luxury towers.
So 7 properties.
Yes. In Florida.
Just in Florida. Damn.
Investigators revealed that Trump real estate holdings had utilized Russian oligarchs and mobsters to launder money. And these transactions involved shell companies. And it's hard to track shell companies because you could just keep transferring ownership. But they tracked at least 30 condos with shell companies that are connected to Russian oligarchs. So when he says, I ain't got no ties to Russia, it's like, motherfucker, you only have ties to Russia.
Damn, it's like that's the only friends you have.
You are more Russian than
American. Yeah, okay, he's more Russian than American.
Now back to the Mueller report. That's not even in the Mueller report, by the way. That is just extra.
That's just extra news.
Now he's surrounded by Russia. So now we know he had business with the Russians. George Papadopoulos, a foreign policy advisor for the campaign, made early contact with Joseph Mifsud, who is a professor with ties to who? Russia. Russian intelligence. Mifsud.
You say Russia, I will drink.
Drink. Oh, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay.
Russia.
We're going to be fucked up. Mifsud told Papadopoulos that who?
Russia.
Okay.
Okay.
Had dirt on Hillary Clinton.
Damn.
That hacked emails. And in May 2016, Papadopoulos shared this information with the Australian diplomat, who later reported it to the U.S. authorities. And this disclosure was one of the key triggers to the FBI's investigation in the first place into Russian interference. There's Russia again.
Russia.
On June 9th, 2016, Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and Paul Manafort, who I will get into in a minute, met with Russian lawyer, again.
Okay. One more.
Natalia Velsenskaya.
Whoa. Shoot. That one you had to take a breath break.
At Trump Tower in New York. And the meeting was arranged after Trump Jr. was promised damaging information on Hillary Clinton. So it's constant. He's constantly meeting Russians. And this was described even as part of Russia's support of Mr. Trump. This is a part of Russia's support of Mr. Trump. The meeting ultimately led to nothing, but the campaign's willingness to accept foreign assistance was part of the fucking problem. You're not supposed to get foreign assistance for a United States presidential campaign.
No.
Not from a fucking non-ally. The Russians aren't allies.
Right.
They're adversaries. Now, Paul Manafort, back to him. Another very interesting character with heavy Russian ties. He worked on the Republican presidential campaign in general, not just Trump's, from 1970s into the 2000s. He was advising like Gerald Ford fucking Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Bob Dole. He then became a lobbyist working with many different foreign leaders. And one of the interests he had in the case was actually back in Ukraine when he was promoting Ukrainian's pro-Russian president, Viktor Yanukovych. Yeah. Okay. Let me give you some details on this. Putin wanted control over Ukraine because he wants it to be part of his Russian world. That he believes that it should have never broken away. He hates the fact that Ukraine wants to expand westward and that Ukraine wants to join NATO and the European Union. He hates the idea that Ukraine does not want to be a part of Russia. Ukraine is rich also in natural resources. And he fears that if they prosper, eventually he's going to lose control of Russia, all of Russia. He feels like he's the fucking king of Russia. That's just it. He feels like he's Russia's savior. Crimea also plays a part in that, but I'm not even going to get in that. But Viktor Yanukovych was running for president in 2004 against a Western Democratic president, or Western Democratic leaning candidate at the time. His name was Viktor Yushchenko. Now, Yushchenko was also, of course, he was disfigured by old Pootie.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, he was disfigured. He ended up being permanently disfigured. Viktor Yushchenko, but a revolution broke out in the form of mass protests, and the Ukrainians smelled fucking election fraud. And you know what they did? This was called the Orange Revolution. They reran that election. They voted again.
Wow.
They voted again. And Yushchenko was declared the victor, not Yanukovych. 5 years later, though, Yanukovych would win the presidency anyway, under the campaign strategy of who? Paul Manafort. So the pro-Russian president will win anyway 5 years later because they cheated the first time. Putin cheated. They stole the election. But 5 years later, Yanukovych will win the presidency anyway. Now, how did he win? He reshaped Yanukovych's image. He made him appear more westernized, more populist. He targeted Russian-speaking voters in the Ukraine. He promised economic stability. You know, Manafort orchestrated all these smear campaigns. He made his opponents look like shit. He secured funding from pro-Russian oligarchs. You know, all of the shit.
Sounds familiar.
Yep. He strengthened ties with Putin's government. He also used fake polling and voter manipulation tactics to bolster Yanukovych's standing. But here's the thing. It helped him win the 2010 election, but by 2014, there were so many fucking protests because people knew it was bullshit. And this led to him being ousted. And Yanukovych was exiled to Russia. And his tactics in the Ukraine influenced Trump in 2016. And that is how Trump won in 2016.
So it's like he's like chapter 2.
Mm-hmm. So back to that. Ooh. Manafort's effort with Yanukovych, while it won Yanukovych that term, what it showed to me as I'm reading about this shit is that cheating isn't long term. Now, it is for Putin, but I think it only is for Putin because Putin has created a criminal enterprise that is loyal enough to him. It's long standing. Like, he's been doing it for long enough that now all of Russian politics is completely criminal. Like, he's been doing it for like over 20, 30 years. Like, he's been doing it for a long time. But if you know, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yanukovych only had a 4-year window. He didn't really have enough time. So it's like with Trump right now, and I'm offering up a little bit of hope here. Trump is 80. Trump's going to die eventually. Mm-hmm. J.D. Vance, yeah, sooner, hopefully. JD Vance is going to replace him. The only thing that's going to be scary is the tech bros. The Elon Musk, the Peter Thiels, the JD Vances. Those motherfuckers are scary. Mm-hmm. Russia's stability was able to be maintained because of the fear of Putin, the KGB, and also the tactics that he was willing to use. Putin is willing to poison you. He's poisoning journalists. He will blow your shit up. He will, motherfuckers walk past you, throw acid in your face. He don't give a fuck.
Right, old school.
He willing to do some foul ass shit. Like, if it gets to that point where motherfuckers are willing to do that here, we could really be stuck the way, like if they're willing to use fear in that way here, we'll be stuck. But I think the difference here, and I think where even the tech bros need to understand that Americans are crazy. We're crazy. We're crazy. We're unstable. The civil, like even when you think Project 2025, like I was thinking about this the other night. Project 2025, Make America Great Again is technically a phrase that was coined with Reagan. That phrase is old. That's not new. Mm-hmm. Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, their whole initiative started with Reagan. They're just rebranding it for with Trump. Now, the new plans that they have, everything that they have now is basically they've updated it, but it's some old school ass shit that's based on some really old school ideology. That's why some of the maneuvers that they're making, like, getting rid of DEI, trying to kind of like incite riots and shit like that. That's why it's not working. You're trying to piss off black people, brown people. You're doing a lot of shit that you would think would bring people into the streets is really not working the way it used to because you're basing it off an old model of minority that no longer exists.
Right.
We're not willing to sacrifice ourselves the way we used to. Also, you're also dealing with a different type of crazy because now we got drugs, mental instability. We got a lot of other moving parts that I don't think they've accounted for.
Right. That'll all add up to a crazier.
Yeah. Because even if you think of Elon Musk, right? For some reason, Elon Musk really didn't think 1 + 1 = 2 when he thought doing a Heil Hitler on stage. For some reason, he thought doing a Heil Hitler on stage was going to increase his Tesla stock. I don't understand why he thought that was going to work. I don't understand why he thought that was going to be an effective approach. I don't know why he didn't think that like he was going to lose money. For some reason, they're going off of old, like even if you take the Nazi playbook is from the 30s, my guy. That's 100 years ago. You can't base it off that model. Not only have human beings evolved, there's technology. There's also mental shit. People are crazy as fuck. And there are people that are actually willing to fuck you up before they allow you to take absolutely everything from them.
Right.
There's a certain level of subservience that people were willing to submit to 80 years ago that people will absolutely not submit to now. I think it's going to be a lot harder to take everything from me than it was to take everything from our grandparents, is my point.
Right.
That's why that phrase, "we are not our ancestors,"
right, is,
I feel, people get offended by that, but I think that rule fucking applies. We are not. We have more to lose, which is the reason why it's going to be harder for you to take my shit. My grandmother did not have a BMW, motherfucker.
Right.
She did not live in downtown Chicago. The fuck? Right. You're not taking my shit.
Yep.
She did not have my salary. You're not taking my shit. And even though I may not be willing to go on the front line per se, but if you try to pull me out of my house, I may be actually willing to kill you for this shit.
Right.
I think that is the part they haven't quite calculated.
Right. The repercussions of their actions.
Yeah.
Towards people that are actually willing to fight back.
Yeah. And so I think with even like Russia, it's like Russia has had this experience for a very long time. So there's a certain amount of subservience that has just carried on from generation to generation because that's just what they used to. They kind of been indoctrinated into it. For us, this is kind of just like a new experience. And we're still very in the what the fuck is happening phase.
Yeah. We're in the trying to figure it out phase to be like, is this serious? Is this not serious? Yes, it's serious. And then now what do we do? What's going on? What do we do now?
Yeah. So I just wonder, like, while don't get me wrong, there will be people that will submit. Don't get me wrong. But I do believe there will be more people that absolutely won't.
Yeah.
And I think that will surprise them how many won't.
As a country that was always and has always been free.
Mm-hmm.
Well, free and
relatively
free.
Yeah.
And
had certain liberties.
With liberties.
Yeah.
When you try and flip that over and that's all you've ever known.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to make it into a dictatorship or some type of whatever he wants to make it into. It'd be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not used to this shit. Like,
yeah.
I'm not submitting to you. I'm not doing this shit. Even though I elected you, you still can't do that shit to me. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that.
Because people have done worse shit for less. Like kids shoot up schools for dumb shit. Mm-hmm. You took my cell phone. I killed my mama because you took my cell phone. Mm-hmm. You right? Like there are motherfuckers that have done that shit here. They don't do that shit overseas. So like when you on social media and you see other countries where they talk about us and they're like, well, why are they not angry? I'm like, just wait. We're not angry enough yet. I think we're biding our time because it hasn't quite hurt yet. I keep saying, because Black people are chilling.
It's hurting people. It's just not hurting the people that voted for him.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, that's when you're saying like,
that's when.
Wait a minute.
I'm staying in the fucking house.
Mm-hmm. Like, wait a minute.
I'm staying in the house.
You made some promises to me. I put you in office and now you made some promises and you're not fucking.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and I've said it before and I know we've talked about it privately. That's one of those moments where you're like, I'm waiting for his constituents to click.
Yep.
Wait a minute, motherfucker.
Oh, you're taking my
benefits,
my retirement, my Social Security, my Medicaid.
They need to have their woke moment. And I think that I mean, and also they're the reactive group anyway. I mean, they're the ones that are armed.
Shit, I know.
They're the ones that's been ready for a civil war since forever. They're the ones in the woods and shit dressed up like Confederates. Y'all the ones that's ready to fight. You were the ones January 6th putting shit on the walls. Like, you're the ones that's ready for this shit. If that's the case, go out there and fight for that shit. That's who I'm waiting for.
Yep, me too.
And to be totally honest, you know, there are certain expectations that like I have even of liberal white people too, because at the same time, liberal white people have kind of surfed on their like education, on being the privilege of like being able to get jobs and, you know, kind of being removed from even the poor white experience for so long that they've been you know, the Hillary Clinton effect is which is what I call it. The elitism of just being like, I don't live that life no more. I'm not over there. So fuck them. And I'm just over here. They will start to feel it too. And it'll be very interesting to see how they start to react to it. But in the meantime, I'm going to sit my Black ass over here and I'll wait. Because, and I will never forget this content creator who said, and shout out to him. He's actually a very young content creator named Hendon Kwan, who's in the military. He makes great content. He said, the beautiful part about Black people sitting out is for the first time in American history, we're not distracting them from the actual root problem. So for many years, us rioting, setting shit on fire, You've been able to put us in a paper. And over here, the focus was on us, right? Like, you were able to be like, oh, look at those Negroes over there doing all this shit. And over here, you were doing all this foul shit to the system.
This is happening.
Yes. Be angry at that. But don't pay attention to what the fuck we're doing over here.
Right.
But for the first time, we're not doing anything. Like, I was talking to one of my mutuals last night. And literally, I was like, I hate to say this, I don't give a fuck that Jackie Robinson's military records are being deleted. I don't care. He's dust. Like, it's disrespectful, but the only thing that I can truly care about is tangible shit when I'm dealing with an authoritarian government. My history's being erased. I know who the fuck Jackie Robinson is.
Right.
I wasn't going to that website to look up Jackie Robinson's history. I hope his family know what the fuck his history is. But at the same time, like, all of these little like tactics that they're using that they know amplifies like diversity, these things don't impact me because I know this history. I know these people. I know what these people mean to me. So all these little like, does that hurt? Does that hurt? Does that hurt?
Right.
What about that?
It's just like,
what about that?
Poke.
No, it doesn't. You tearing up that street with the Black Lives Matter shit, inconveniencing all those motherfuckers when they trying to get to work. No, you could have painted that. That doesn't bother me. But you went out there with a fucking jackhammer.
It's just
it was a tactic. It was unnecessary. It was a tactic. It was dumb. But you went out there with a jackhammer just to be difficult and to create the optics. I don't care. I don't care. What I care about is what is actively happening right now. My liberties, my freedoms, my employment, other people's employments, the rights, gays, blacks, whatever the fuck. That is what I care about. Jackie Robinson, and he been dead. The fuck are we talking about? What are we talking about? Be for real. I hate to be an asshole, but I think even Jackie Robinson would be like, we got bigger fish to fry.
It's true.
If we're being honest. So it's like, yes. And I think they just know how important Black history was to us. Again, an old school concept in the 60s, right? How important it was to amplify Black history. It's 2025, baby. I know them. I know what they mean to me. I know that was a great deal of my education. I am well aware. If white people don't know it, sucks to be them. If brown people don't know it, I don't know what the fuck to say about that.
Right.
But I know it. So it is what it is. But I say all of that to say that when it comes to some of these tactics that Russia is using on us, that they used in the Ukraine, these divisive tactics, that I feel like a lot of these people that are spearheading these things, they're old. And they think it's the 1960s.
That's the only thing they probably have only ever known. How to. Though that is their one and only tactic. That is their one and only, that's all I got in my bag. Yeah. I mean, so let's try it again.
Well, I'm a one-trick pony.
One-trick pony. Let's try it again. Let's see if these
like people, the other day when they
bamboozle these people.
Yeah, like the other day they tried that segregation shit. It was like, oh, we want to, incorporate segregation again. And then when Black people started joking about like, oh, okay. And they were like, well, wait, that didn't work. Like, no, motherfucker. Like, we're just not falling for this. We don't care. What we care about and safety. And until you start really doing some shit that count, that whole like monkey throwing boo-boo over the fence shit that you doing, because that's what it looks like to us at this point.
Right.
You're not impressing us. It's clown work. It's circus work at this point. Moving on, back to the Mueller report. Almost done. Sorry, tangent. It was a good tangent, though.
What is that old saying?
It was a good tangent. All right, so back to the Mueller report. So then there was this guy named Carter Page. Now, Carter Page was a foreign policy advisor who traveled to Moscow in July 2016, and he met with Russian officials and discussed lifting the U.S. sanctions to Russia. Now, after the news broke about this, the Trump campaign, they distanced themselves from him. Around the same time, Paul Manafort, who's now Trump's campaign chairman, maintained contact with Konstantin Kilimnik, who's a Russian national, another Russian, with suspected intelligence ties, and Manafort shared internal polling data with Kilimnik and discussed peace plans for Ukraine that favored Russian interests. And Manafort later lied to investigators about his contacts, which eventually got Manafort in trouble. And we'll talk about everybody who's indicted and that'll be quick because a few of them do get indicted. Now, after Trump's election victory, Russian officials tried to establish ties with his administration. His name, one person was Kirill. I wish I could pronounce these dudes' name. His name was like Kirill Dmitriev. He was the head of a Russian sovereign wealth fund. He contacted Trump's associates and sent a U.S.-Russia reconciliation plan through the back channels. Michael Flynn, who was Trump's income national security advisor, he had multiple conversations with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak in December 2016 discussing U.S. sanctions on Russia. Now, Michael Flynn is a retired U.S. Army lieutenant. He's a general. He served over 30 years in the U.S. Army. He specialized in military intelligence. Flynn was forced into early retirement in 2014 due to clashes with the Obama administration. Now, Flynn believed Obama downplayed the threat of radical Islam, and he was too cautious responding to ISIS. He thought that Obama was downplaying the whole ISIS issue. He ignored intelligence and all that other shit. And Flynn believed that the White House was just like being a pussy. He felt betrayed by Obama. And he was a very vocal critic of Obama's administration. And so then when Obama's team and his national security team got super frustrated with Flynn and his performance, they asked Flynn to resign in 2014, and they effectively fired him. And after his resignation, Flynn became like way against like Obama. And they started to frequently appear on conservative media. And by conservative media, I mean Fox. They started blasting Obama and talking about his national security decisions. Now, during that period, Jared Kushner, who I think is gay, but whatever. He started meeting, he's Ivanka Trump's husband. Uh-huh. He started meeting with Sergei Gorkov, who's the head of the Russian state-owned bank, to discuss economic relations. Jared Kushner is a special case. I didn't want to get into him because he's his own true crime episode, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. He's corrupt as shit. He's been corrupt as shit. His dad's corrupt as shit. The Trump campaign he has no fucking experience and shit. Nothing. He has no diplomatic experience. He has no political experience. He managed data analytics. He did strategy. He did fundraising. He is a fucking Nepo baby. Yet and still, at the end of the day, he was only I think Jared Kushner's positioning has been to really be kind of like a social network for Ivanka. I think Donald Trump put him in place because he's a kid who is married to his daughter, who he feels like will ultimately keep her rich, keep her well off, keep her in position.
He married her off.
Yeah. He's like, she needs, she'll be all right with him. Jared Kushner's position ultimately gave him the global contacts he needed to continue all of his real estate investments. I mean, the shit that he's doing in Israel and in the Middle East and all that other shit. So I'm not even going to get into that. But the report concluded that while the Trump campaign did not engage in provable criminal conspiracy with Russia, it did have contact with Russian operatives and did expect to benefit from their efforts. I mean, Flynn, Manafort, Papadopoulos, they all lied about their contact. They all obstructed. They all did shit. Volume 2 is pretty much straightforward. Trump tried to fire FBI Director James Comey. He did, actually. fire James Comey. He pressured James Comey to drop the investigation into Michael Flynn, who was obviously Trump's former national security advisor. He complained publicly and privately about how this is a witch hunt. This is a witch hunt. And James Comey, who I mentioned before, he was the one that ran to the hospital with Mueller.
Oh, yeah.
In July 2016, Comey publicly announced that the FBI would not charge Hillary Clinton over the private email server, which was a totally different thing. But he criticized her handling of this classified data and all this other shit. I was fucking pissed at Comey. I will never forget reading the Comey memo. I was living in Hyde Park at that point. But just before the election in June 2016, Comey released this memo. It reopened the Clinton investigation, and everybody thought that him re-releasing the memo about her emails is what damaged her campaign. After Trump's election, the FBI continued to investigate the Russian interference, and by January 2017, Comey had briefed Trump on Russian threats. But there was this thing called the Steele Dossier. The Steele Dossier is a collection of intelligence memos that were compiled in 2016 by this guy named Christopher Steele. He was like this British MI16 guy. He was like an intelligence officer. But it turns out that he was hired by Fusion GPS, which was a research firm that was hired by Republicans against Trump.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Now, from January to February, Trump had several one-on-one interactions with Comey that made the FBI director, made Comey super uncomfortable. He told him, he said, I hope you can let this go. And what he said, he was referring to Flynn, saying, just let the Flynn situation go. Presidents should not be talking to FBI directors about FBI investigations. Trump also said, I hope you're loyal. I expect loyalty. This is what he said to Comey. Trump said, I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go. Talking about Flynn again, because at the time, Flynn was just basically trying to make this Ukraine-Russia situation work. Because, of course, Trump is working with Putin. Putin's trying to make the Ukraine thing work, whatever. Comey interpreted that as pressure to drop his investigation into Flynn's contacts with Russia. So by May, Comey was fired.
At least he wasn't dead.
At least he wasn't dead. Now, Trump ain't that stupid. Now, Trump claimed it was based on a memo that Rod Rosenstein, who was the attorney general, criticized Comey's handling of the Clinton email investigation, but Trump then later admitted on TV with Lester Hope. He was like, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, this Russia thing with Trump, and Russia is a made up story. You're Russian. You're fucking Russian, bro.
Seriously, by this time. Like we had talked about before, blood in, blood out. You got jumped into that gang a long time ago.
By June, Trump directed Don McGahn, who was the White House counsel, to have Robert Mueller, removed from the investigation. Yeah. He was citing bogus conflicts of interest. Don McGahn was like, yeah, nah. And if you proceed with this, I resign. And then Trump later told McGahn, he said, could you create a false record denying that the fire requests even happened? Don McGahn was like, what the actual fuck? Would you stop trying to make me lie about shit? Dude. McGahn refused. Trump tried to influence witnesses. He tried to influence Michael Flynn. He was trying to get him not to flip. Michael Cohen, he was trying to signal him via tweet, trying to tell him, like, yo, you'll be rewarded if you stay loyal, Michael Flynn. He said that on Twitter. Cohen eventually flipped anyway, and then he called him a rat. Paul Manafort ended up talking to him and was like, you'll get a pardon if you don't cooperate. He doing all of this interference. So Mueller ended up concluding that all of these Trump actions met the criteria for obstruction, and particularly in terms of intent and interference with an ongoing investigation. But the DOJ, the Department of Justice guidelines, prohibited indicting a sitting fucking president.
That was the plan all along.
So Mueller did not make a traditional charging decision. Quote, if we had confidence after a thorough investigation that the president clearly did not commit obstruction of justice, we would so state. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Mueller did not charge Trump. He didn't charge Trump. He documented 10 episodes of possible obstruction with significant evidence in several cases. He emphasized that the Congress had the constitutional authority to act when a president obstructs justice. Trump was not exonerated, even though Trump said that he was exonerated. He was not exonerated. He even lied about that. So who was charged? Paul Manafort. He was charged with tax fraud, bank fraud. He got failure to register as a foreign agent. He got conspiracy witness tampering. His outcome, he got 8 counts. He pled guilty to others. He served 7.5 years in prison. Jeez. And he was pardoned by Trump.
After the 7 years?
In 2020. After the 7 years. Well, 5 roughly, because 20...
He was sentenced to 7, but
yeah, he was sentenced to 7. It wasn't even 5, because yeah. Rick Gates, Manafort's deputy, and Trump's campaign aide, charges: conspiracy, false statements, outcome, pled guilty, cooperated with Mueller, received probation, community service, no prison time. Michael Flynn, national security advisor, lying to the FBI about his conversations with Sergei Kislyak. He pled guilty. He withdrew his plea. DOJ moved to dismiss the case. Trump pardoned him. George Papadopoulos, Trump's foreign policy advisor, charged with lying to FBI about contacts with individuals tied to Russia. He pled guilty, served 12 days in prison. Dude. 1 year supervised release. Roger Stone, Trump advisor, charged with obstruction of Congress, lying to investigators, witness tampering. That was related to the WikiLeaks Russian email leaks. His outcome, he was convicted of 7 counts, served 40 months in prison, sentence commuted, pardoned by Trump. Michael Cohen, personal attorney. He was not charged by Mueller, but he related. He got campaign finance violations, tax fraud, and then he lied to Congress about the Trump Tower Moscow situation. He pled guilty. He served time in federal prison. That man lost everything. Michael Cohen lost the most. His case was referred by Mueller to the Southern District of New York. That's why he lost everything. Konstantin Kilimnik, who's a suspected, Russian intelligence agent, he was obstruction of justice, conspiracy. He was tied to Manafort. He was indicted, never arrested. He lives in Russia. So there's that. There were many Russian nationals and entities that were also charged. There were a shit ton of people that were charged. Mueller indicted Russian individuals and organizations for cyber attacks, for hacking the DNC, for Clinton campaign, social media interference, the IRA for spreading propaganda. He got indictments for a shit ton of Russian nationals, and they were extradited and they were tried in the U.S. Damn. Bonus, Felix Sater. He testified before a congressional committee and Mueller's team, but he was never charged in connection with the election interference or his involvement in Trump's business dealings with Russia, or major focus on the investigation. And I wonder why that is. Probably because he's a fucking narc. Felix Sater is a CIA and FBI informant. He's never going to jail. Now the Mueller
that's out.
The Mueller
ticket.
Okay. The Mueller investigation. It ramped up division between the left and the right. Now, it made people more skeptical about the government institutions. I mean, it pushed the boundaries of what the president can get away with, to be totally honest. And he faced very little consequences for this shit. And a lot of the people that did face consequences eventually just got pardoned. They just got pardoned.
It's almost like, just hold out, guys. I'll get you out.
Yeah. And on top, just same thing with the J6 motherfuckers. On top of that, the whole thing added fuel to the fire of disinformation, mistrust. It made it look harder for people to agree to elections. That's why when people are like, oh, well, 30-something% of people don't vote. 30-something% of people don't vote because they don't believe the shit count.
Yeah, it's not.
And the justice...
The results are not going to make any difference.
The justice system don't mean shit. The news don't mean shit. The U.S. intelligence community concluded with high confidence that Putin favored Trump. Trump was seen by Russia as unpredictable, politically inexperienced, more likely to pursue isolationist and transactional foreign policy, and he was open to warming up relationships with Russia. He was lifting sanctions and he was weakening NATO. And that is exactly what the fuck that motherfucker's doing right now.
Mm-hmm. He's doing everything. Everything that was predicted is happening now. Is
the fucking Mueller report.
And he's a puppet.
He's a Russian
He was always
pawn.
a puppet. He's the best. No, what do they call this? Is that the right term that you would use? You're a pigeon.
Yeah, he's a fucking pigeon.
You're a fucking pigeon.
He's a fucking pigeon. And at the end of the day, and that's why I was mad this entire time. Do you see why I was mad?
Mm-hmm. I see it. And it's...
I'd rather get back to serial killers.
Yeah.
So...
I just like paranormal shit.
Yeah.
Serial killers. Fucking just...
I'm mad all over again. I need a burger now. You want to go get a burger?
No, I ate.
You ate?
I ate Chipotle before I got here.
Oh.
I know.
It's fine.
I couldn't wait. I was like, I ordered it right after I got off.
I ain't mad. I'm not mad. I ate earlier. It's cool. I'll get something on my way home.
Yeah, I couldn't wait.
All right. Well, I hope you all learned something.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It really is a lot. It's stupid. It's just so stupid.
Yep, and they're all human.
Yeah. And here he is, president again.
Humans do to other humans. So.
Yeah. President all over again. So I'll see you all next time. I'm going to I'm going to do something. I was about to say I'm going to do something happier. I'll probably do a serial killer, but that's not happy. But I'll just...
Makes us happy. Which is weird.
I'm going back to my regular schedule program, and I ain't doing no more political shit. I'm done with this shit. I'm happy I got this out my system though. TT tied, in the words of my sister. I got to get Kira back on too.
Oh,
I got to get Kira back on. So, thank you all for being so patient. You don't have to. My numbers really haven't changed, and I appreciate that. I know people going back to my old episodes and shit, so I'm grateful for that. And I got some new listeners, so welcome to the shit show. And I hope you like it so far. All right? All right.
Peace out, y'all.
Bye.